Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today we talk about 10 of my favorite satanic horror movies. And with that, let's get to the list.
Turn on the lights!
Who are you?
Devil is a 2010 supernatural horror movie, directed by John Eric Dowdle and based on a story by M. Night Shyamalan. It stars Chris Messina, Logan Marshall Green, and Jenny O'Hara. A group of people are trapped in an elevator, and the devil is mysteriously amongst them.
You all right?
You're bleeding.
Oh my god.
It feels like something bit me.
Does anybody have anything sharp on them? They might have cut her.
No.
So this is the most M. Night Shyamalan movie that isn't actually directed by M. Night Shyamalan, because he just wrote the story that then was adapted and turned into a screenplay and then directed by John Eric Dowdle. But we've always wondered how involved he really was in the making of this movie, because it feels so M. Night. And to be honest, it's one of the very best projects that M. Night is involved in at all, at least in my opinion. I think it's a great movie, a great psychological thriller that really twists and turns and keeps you guessing. It's one of those movies that the less you know about it going in, the better. It's also a very dialogue-driven movie, which could be kind of boring for some people because, I mean, 90% of this movie all takes place in this one elevator with this group of people, and you're just kind of little by little picking up pieces and figuring out what is going on here. But if you were like me and went into this mostly blind back in the day when it came out, it definitely surprised you. But if we're talking about satanic, devilish, weird horror movies, this is one of my favorites. Prince of Darkness is a 1987 supernatural horror movie, written and directed by John Carpenter. This is the second installment in what Carpenter calls his Apocalypse trilogy, which began with The Thing in 1982 and concludes with In the Mouth of Madness in 1994. It stars Donald Pleasance, Victor Wong, and Lisa Blunt. It follows a group of quantum mechanics students who are asked to assist a Catholic priest in investigating a mysterious ancient cylinder of liquid.
It started a month ago.
What started?
A change in the earth and the sky.
So of the Apocalypse trilogy, this is the one that is talked about probably the least, because there's definitely cult following for In the Mouth of Madness, one of my favorite movies of all time. And then of course The Thing, which a lot of people, including me, consider one of the greatest absolutely horror movies that's ever been done. And then The Thing, which a lot of us consider to be one of the greatest, if not the best horror movie of all time. But this one just doesn't get the love it deserves. I mean, I don't exactly get it. It's John Carpenter, it's written, directed by him, it looks amazing, it's got a really interesting cast. Donald Pleasance is in it and he's fantastic in this. I also think Victor Wong is underappreciated as an actor in general, but especially in this role. He's great in this movie. I also absolutely love the special effects in this. They're so fun, so weird, so cutting edge, especially for the time. And when you think about that they're all practically done, that just makes it that much more like magic. It's super interesting. But this movie also gets pretty damn creepy. I mean, it goes for it, especially towards the end of the movie, and gets much more bizarre and twisted than you might expect. But I just think this movie deserves way more attention than it gets. So if you have yet to see this one, do yourself a favor and check this one out. The House of the Devil is a 2009 horror movie, written, directed, and edited by Ty West. It stars Jacqueline Donahue, Tom Noonan, and Mary Warrenoff. Desperate to make some money so she can move into a new apartment, a college student takes a mysterious babysitting job, but soon realizes her employers are hiding a horrifying secret.
We actually don't have a child.
They lied to you.
I
They're
know,
liars.
okay, I know you're right. But it's $400. This equals first month's rent and then some, and all I have to do is sit inside and watch TV.
This movie is so atmospheric, so creepy, just the look and style of it, the pacing of it, everything about this just has this mysterious evil quality to it. And over the last couple years with the X trilogy, Ty West has talked about much more. But this still, in my opinion, is one of his best. I mean, this movie is really, really good. If you enjoy the kind of slow burn, pacing, dread-filled, kind of creepy movies, then this is one I think you'll enjoy as well. But I just love the mysterious nature of it and the way that it unfolds. Because especially if you go into this not knowing much about it, I think it'll definitely catch you off guard. There's a few scenes in this that definitely got me. So I just think The House of the Devil is a creepy little gem that absolutely deserves to be on this list.
Open the door.
I Trap the Devil is a 2019 supernatural horror movie. Written, produced, edited, and directed by Josh Lobo in his feature film debut. It stars AJ Bowen, Scott Poitras, and Susan Teresa Burke. A man descends into paranoia after trapping what he believes to be the devil in his basement.
It has been around for as long as anybody can remember.
What have you done?
There's something evil locked behind that door.
Please help me.
Here's another very underappreciated film that I love. I love the atmosphere of it. Once again, it's a bit of a slow burn and it's full of dread and things like that. It's a psychological kind of movie that really fucks with your head because through the entire movie and even at the end, you're left questioning on what exactly you saw, what exactly was the reality here, what was a delusion, and if it's all a delusion or if it is real or, you know, and I love movies like that leave you questioning, that you have to come up with somewhat of your own answers by the end. Now, I personally think it's pretty cut and dry what this movie is saying and what exactly goes down here. But I know a lot of people I've talked to about it in the past have been confused and not exactly sure what happens in this movie. So I'm trying to be coy to not spoil things here, but just a bit of a warning. If you're someone that needs really cut and dry answers and a movie to kind of spell things out a little bit for you and really give you a definitive answer to your questions, then this just may not be your jam. But if you're like me and love movies that fuck with your head, I think you'll really have a good time with this. It's just so disturbing the way it feels. It feels so evil. The atmosphere and vibe of it, especially being set at the Christmas time of year, just gives it that extra feeling of dread, that extra feeling of discomfort. It feels thick, like you could just feel the evil in this movie. I just think this is one of the best hidden gem indie horror movies out there, and it's one that I highly, highly recommend.
There have been men who have been burned alive for just a glimpse of what you are about to witness.
The Ninth Gate is a 1999 neo-noir horror movie, written and directed by Roman Polanski. It stars Johnny Depp, Emmanuel Signet, and Frank Langella. A dealer of rare books is tasked with authenticating a 17th century book that purportedly contains a magical secret for summoning the devil.
The Nine Gates is a kingdom of shadows. A book reputed to have been written by Satan himself.
I want you to go to Europe. I want you to get it for me.
This is one of my personal favorite horror movies ever because I love movies like this where it takes you on a journey and it almost feels like the evil, demonic horror version of Indiana Jones. And I love that about this movie. It also is creepy from the very beginning and mysterious and slowly builds the anticipation and the wondering of what is true and who are the villains, and because there's a lot of espionage and stuff like that in this movie as well. But don't get it twisted. By the end of this, it gets absolutely horror, and there is some creepy, disturbing, really messed up stuff that goes down. But I love the visuals. I love the style, the pacing of it. There's just so much about this movie that is entertaining to me. On top of that, it's got Johnny Depp in it, who I think does a great job here. So when I was putting this list together, there was no question in my mind that The Ninth Gate had to be on it.
You gotta burn for this, Angel. You gotta burn for this, Angel.
In hell, now.
Angel Heart is a 1987 neo-noir psychological horror movie. Written and directed by Alan Parker, it stars Mickey Rourke, Robert De Niro, and Lisa Bonet. A private investigator is hired to solve the disappearance of a man. His investigation takes him to New Orleans, where he becomes embroiled in a series of brutal murders.
Harry Angel has been hired to solve more than a mystery.
He's dead, Mr. Angel. And if he isn't, he is to me.
This movie is just awesome. And if you're an old head like me, you're well aware of this movie. There's definitely a lot of people that are big fans of this movie. But I don't think the younger audience, the younger horror fans out there, 30 and younger sort of thing, I don't think that you guys are as aware of this movie as you should be. Because yes, it's a bit dated, but I'm telling you, this movie does not feel dated. When you watch it, it's still so contemporary in the way that it's shot, the style of it. It almost feels like A24 could have put this out, or Neon, and it would be a big hit right now. Because if you're fans of movies that have a style to them, an older period piece type of style, movies like the stuff that Ty West does, this feels that way. Like, even though it is shot in that time period, the way that it is done, it feels like you're watching almost a modern movie being done in that period way. It's hard to even explain what I'm talking about, but it's just the way that it's put together. Also, what makes this movie so special is the performances. I mean, the 3 headline stars in this were all at the peak of their powers when this movie was made. Robert De Niro is incredible in this, and if you haven't seen this, this movie is just worth seeing for his performance alone. But you also have Mickey Rourke, who is amazing in this movie. Such a fun, enjoyable character to follow. He's this flawed character, so to speak, that you can't help but root for. And then, don't forget about Lisa Bonet. She is stunning in this movie and gives a really powerful, emotional performance of her own. So I think if you're a fan of atmospheric, creepy movies that have a really interesting, twisting, turning, mysterious kind of story, because it's got this whodunit element to the movie, if you enjoy that and movies that are shot in really cool locations that just look phenomenal, and you have not seen this, do yourself a favor and drop everything that you're doing right on the ground and go and check this one out.
Let's leave the wood.
The Witch is a 2015 folk horror movie, written and directed by Robert Eggers in his feature directorial debut. It stars Anya Taylor-Joy, Ralph Ineson, and Kate Dickie. A family in 1630s New England is torn apart by the forces of witchcraft, black magic, and possession.
Boom!
This is another one that is very much about the style, about the way it feels, the atmosphere, things like that. Because yes, there is a compelling story here. Yeah, there is great performances by the cast, and the dialogue and everything that goes on in this movie is really, really well executed. But it is a slow movie, and it is a prodding, dread-filled kind of film, and that bores a lot of people. And I get it. But I think it's one of those movies that if you can get in the right headspace for this type of film, it does it pretty much as good as any movie there is. Because at least for me, it hit me hard. It was powerful. It left a mark on me. Like, it stuck with me long after I had seen it. And even now, when I rewatched it not too long ago, I was still just so impressed, especially when you think about that this was Robert Eggers' first film. It's just phenomenal. His attention to detail, the way he executes everything in a movie, it feels so lived in, feels so real, and that just makes it even easier, at least for me anyway, to feel sucked into this environment and feel like I am a part of this situation. On top of that, the way religion in this movie is dealt with and talked about is something that also hit home to me. I'm not going to get all into that. I've talked about it in other videos, but I grew up in a pretty tough religious household that was very cult type of driven in a very controlled, stifling environment. And so that also really hit home for me with this movie. But when I was putting this list together and I was thinking about what movies felt the most evil, satanic, just really felt like the real evil, so to speak, especially if you believe in that stuff, felt permeated throughout. The Witch was definitely one of the ones I thought about right away. So there was no way in hell I was gonna put a list like this together without including it. The Omen is a 1976 supernatural horror movie, directed by Richard Donner. It stars Gregory Peck, Harvey Spencer Stevens, Lee Remick, and David Warner. The story is about a couple whose own son could be the Antichrist, the devil's own son.
Look at me, Damien. It's all for you.
So I'm going to be totally transparent here. I've never been the hugest fan of this movie. I very much respect it, appreciate it, and all of that. The reason it's on this list is because of how much I appreciate its place in the history of horror. And when you're talking about demonic, satanic kinds of movies, this is one of the very first that had a huge impact in this type of storytelling and the things that it deals with. I mean, there's been so many spin-offs, so many movies that have come up from this and were inspired by this, that it would just be completely wrong of me to not include this on the list. But because it's not one of my personal favorites, there was no way I could put it as my number one pick. And I think a lot of the reason why this movie has never super worked for me is because by the time I saw it, I had already seen a ton of other horror movies. I saw this when I was a full-grown adult, probably in the late 90s, I think, maybe early 2000s. And so it always just felt antiquated. It always felt like looking at an antique, and you're like, you appreciate it, you think it's cool, but it didn't get you in the way a lot of other people are affected by this. It just didn't affect me in that way. The same goes for The Exorcist, which you might be mad if you notice that it's not on this list, but The Exorcist, it just felt much more of a possession movie about demons and all that. Didn't quite feel satanic to me. It's a really tough line for me. I was really struggling with what movies to include on this and what not to. And so it was basically, I was either going to put The Exorcist or The Omen. And I went with The Omen because it just feels much more of a satanic driven kind of movie. Because I mean, it's about the Antichrist, you know, the son of the devil. So it's very much closely attached to the devil. Another reason I wanted to put this on this list is because I really was a big fan last year of the first Omen. And it gave me a new appreciation of this movie. Because yeah, it did retcon a few things. It did change things up. And I understand a lot of the hardcore fans of this movie were angry about that. But for me, as someone, like I said, that didn't grow up with this movie, it kind of told a similar story and did a similar thing, but in a more modern style, in a way that I could enjoy and appreciate more, if that makes sense. But that being said, I think this movie is masterfully executed. The cast is incredible in this. It's well directed. The dread comes through. Even now, many, many years later, so much of what this movie does still works. And like I said, it has spawned so many movies that are either blatant ripoffs or at the very least inspired from this. Because it's definitely one of the OG horror movies. It's one of the ones that has really built what happened in the 80s and then in the 90s, 2000s, and so on. A lot of those filmmakers were inspired from this film. So with all that being said, I have found a new level of respect and appreciation for The Omen. And even though I do find it a little bit slow, a little bit tedious to watch in ways, I still think it's an absolute masterpiece.
What have you done to him, you maniac?
Rosemary's Baby is a 1968 psychological horror movie, written and directed by Roman Polanski and based on Ira Levin's 1967 novel. It stars Mia Farrow, John Cassavetes, and Ruth Gordon. A young couple trying for a baby moves into an aging apartment building surrounded by particular neighbors.
I dreamed someone was
Sleep, bro.
Here's another absolute classic, one that I also think holds up better than The Omen, which is why I have it a little bit higher. Because as much as I do appreciate and respect The Omen and everything that it does and all of that, it's a bit tedious. It's a little bit hard to watch for me. Like I said, it's a little bit slow in the way that it's done. And I think that is what separates it for me with this one, because the psychological elements here, the way that it plays this cat and mouse game and has you guessing and questioning throughout the entire movie, I think really gives it that oomph and makes it more interesting for me anyway. But it's also a bummer with movies like this and The Omen, because even though I didn't know exactly what happened in The Omen before I saw it, or in Rosemary's Baby, I knew the gist of them. I knew that they were basically satanic type of movies and blah, blah, blah. I'm not gonna say everything in case there are a few out there that haven't seen these, but when a movie is this much of a classic and beloved in the horror industry, most people that see these have at least seen memes and things so they already know roughly going into these what happens in them. And so that's part of, I think, what makes it harder for a lot of these to still work for a younger audience. But I do think that of a lot of the classics, this one still works, because even if you have an idea of what's going on here, the way it shows it, the way it unfolds, it's really interesting and fascinating and frustrating at the same time, because you feel yourself really drawn to this character that Mia Farrow is playing, and you can't help but root for her and hate the situation she's in, because it's so well performed by her, so well done directing wise, pacing wise, the way it's shot, all those things, it just really still works in my opinion. I also think the way the evil is shown here and how it just kind of slowly builds up on itself, that the dread isn't there from the beginning. In the beginning, it's all happy, whatever, but by the end, it's just, you could feel it. It's thick with that evilness, that evil dread vibe. But once again, this is an absolute masterpiece, but there is one more movie that, at least for me personally, I put above this. And I know it's gonna be controversial. I know a lot of you guys are gonna come at me in the comments, but I wanted to be honest and rank them in the way that I personally feel about it.
I just don't want to put any more stress on my family.
Hereditary is a 2018 psychological horror movie, written and directed by Ari Aster in his feature film debut. It stars Toni Collette, Alex Wolff, and Millie Shapiro. The story follows a grieving family, haunted by a mysterious presence after the death of their secretive grandmother.
Who's gonna take care of me?
You don't think I'm gonna take care of you?
But when you die...
So I'm sure there are plenty of you guys that are cursing me right now. How dare he put a movie like this above some of these classics I just mentioned? But I think that this is one of those movies that, for me anyway, you could see used those classics, used Rosemary's Baby, used The Omen, used The Exorcist, all these classics, and stood on their shoulders to go even further at what these movies had started. It's what you do in art. You learn techniques, you learn things from the past, from the greats that have done it, and try to push the art form even further. And I feel like, as much as any modern horror movie has done, Hereditary did that, because the way that it's shot, the way the atmosphere, the dread, it's so palpable throughout this movie. It's just terrifying, but yet still just, you could feel the grief, you could feel the struggle. There's so many emotions throughout this movie that you feel that remind me of things that you feel in those classic movies. On top of that, the performance in this from Toni Collette. I mean, show me a performance in a horror movie that's better. I'm not saying there aren't others that are equal, but I don't know of any that are necessarily better, because she gives it everything in this role. It is just so emotional, so moving, yet creepy, sad, terrifying. I mean, there's so many things that I feel when I watch this movie. It's also meticulously put together. The way Robert Eggers is about his movies, you could feel a lot of those similarities in Ari Aster, in his meticulous nature and positioning of props, the types of things that he includes, the lighting. I mean, just everything in this movie feels thought about and purposely done in that way and put there. But I just think, as far as a creepy, evil, satanic horror movie goes, Hereditary is absolutely the best in my opinion. But that's my list, and I would love to hear down in the comments, what are the ones that you would put? What did I do wrong here? What did I do right here? Where do you agree, disagree? You know the drill. But yeah, down in the comments, let me know what you think and let me know what your lists are. And like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button. And remember, guys, horror can be fun. And I'll see you guys next time.